Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for joining me. I am TinaO. I am part of Powerhouse and the Leader Path that happens in Powerhouse, and I am a co-host of Gather for Her. This morning, we had a conversation on Gather for Her with Christina Benty, who is part of the braid of Powerhouse. And by braid, I mean part of the infrastructure of guidance in Powerhouse. Christina Benty is a national speaker. She's a civic leadership performance coach, an organizational system specialist, and an author and an illuminator. And we spent an hour here on Facebook. You can find us live on Facebook as well as on LinkedIn in a conversation in a co-created listening space to harvest the wisdom between us around what she does in the world. And I just want to share with you a couple of things that are alive for me. I always tune in after Gather to give you kind of like the 8-minute recap for those of you who are new to the house. And I just want to check us out. So what I do in the world is I listen for the story, and the story is what's alive in the space. So that's what I'm going to offer to you today. There were a number of things that came up, but in Christina's work, what she's really giving us is a chance to lead from a place of whole leadership and what that actually means to her. And for her, that's being the soul that you are and leading the souls that we are, being soul to soul instead of role to role. Now, what I find is fascinating about that is someone who has grown up in the arts and you might put me in the woo camp sometimes. It's easy to say soul to soul when I'm out in that sort of metaphorical world, or the people have often said to me, "Oh, you're just so arty, Tina," or "You're so spiritual," or whatever. Like to soul in that place, we can get there. But when we talk about soul to soul in a more cognitive room, a room, and what I mean by that is a room that values our thinking more than our feeling, or a world where transactions happen, like in leadership roles, in political leadership, I often call it people who work in matter, like I do too, but like who will pick up this book and pick up this piece of paper and move it to one side of the desk and to the other side of the desk, right? Like these are tangible things. People who work in the world of leadership around tangibility. How do we talk about soul in that world? How do we do that? And that is her work. Christina is a two-term mayor, and her world is systems illumination. It actually is matter. I know this is a book, but we could be talking about, she does lots of talks and lots of workshops around asset management, around infrastructure in our communities. That's all non-soul stuff. That's all matter stuff, tangible things. And the big takeaway, or the big, I would say, suggest story that came up today in our collective conversation was around the requirement of being a whole leader, so that as we have these incredibly complex, challenging conversations like asset management, like 7 generational decisions, like one of the questions she posed to us was when she's in a room with municipal government or organizations that are, again, working in this tangible form, making big decisions with high dollars attached to them and high impact attached to them. She asks herself, who in the room is speaking for the earth? Who in the room is speaking for the water? Who in the room is speaking for the air? Who in the room is speaking or holding the recognition of this decision? This decision is not only going to impact 7 generations from now, but this decision is also being informed by 7 generations before. Who's in the room holding that? And that was her invitation for us, that in order to get to that place where we can be that in between generation, thinking ahead, planning ahead and listening to the wisdom before we can even get to that place where we can have all voices in the room, where there's a lot of finger pointing. We know that when we have all voices in the room, we have room for blame. We have room for shame. We have room for disappointing people. We have room for challenging. We have room for championing, like all the things that we want to do in the room, right? Champion, lead, inspire, make great decisions. When we're all in the room, we're actually inviting all parts of ourselves. And in order to do that, to have a seat, to invite all people to the table, we have to be whole first. We have to be whole first. We have to be on the path of whole first. So although this conversation was about the application of leading, the application, like working with teams, working in the room, it was really about the individual and the individual healing themselves. The individual being able to lead with their whole self, which means also looking at the stories you make up, looking at the shame you're carrying, looking at the nervous system that you are and the way you react, and to become curious about your own blind spots, to become curious about places when you get triggered. Do you even know what it feels like when you're triggered? Do you know that you're triggered? Getting curious about the story you just made up about the person who's been pointing at you saying you're wrong. Or get curious about yourself when you're pointing at someone and saying you're wrong. And that curiosity is the path through to whole leadership. What happens when we take the stories off, the stories we make up about things off? These were some of the pieces that came up in our collective conversation that was live on Facebook and live in LinkedIn. And the offering that Christina gave when she wrapped it all up was really curiosity. Are you willing to be curious? Are you able to be curious? And then from my perspective, at the end of the conversation, I offered that story is something we make up, and story is also something innate to us. It's our our divine narrative. And I connected that when Christina's offer of curious, when I become curious about my motivations, curious about my stories, I can begin to discern between the stories I make up about stuff and the story that's actually alive within me, like my soul, my story to your story. And then Charlene offered at the end that we at Powerhouse, we're asked a lot how we decolonize leadership. And decolonizing leadership really does connect to this all voices at the table. That's what, I don't want to say that's where it begins, but that's implied. Unless all voices are at the table, you're not decolonizing leadership. And so Char's offer at the end was, if we want to decolonize leadership, the first thing we have to do is prioritize it. So I invite you to check out the whole conversation that we got into today. This is my recap. We also spent a bit of time letting you know that if these things wake up in you, that you're invited to join us on the Leader Path. March is a big month in Powerhouse. We're calling, M is the first letter of the word change maker. And because each week we're focusing on an M word around change. And in week 3, it's the week of movement. And you're invited to join us on a whole leader reset that begins March 20th. And it's free to you on the Leader Path when you check us out there. So go to powerhouse.com, you'll see the pop-up, and you can register there for the Leader Path, and know that we will invite you as well to join us on Gather for Her in our co-created conversations together. Next week, we have our Wisdom Circle unpacking all of these things. So come on in and join our community. There's always a lot going on in the house, and we will see you there. Thanks for joining me today.